Well, I guess PowerPete got started November, or 95, 94, 93 actually. It actually started off as a game called Ping the Penguin, which was basically just a name. We had a little penguin guy, kind of looked like PowerPete, but not really. Moved around a maze, really primitive stuff just to kind of get the scrolling engine going. And one thing led to another, and we decided that that was a really horrible idea. And then one day on the way to the beach with a friend of mine, I think in late November, we were trying to think of game ideas, and he was the artist who I was going to have do all the art because I'd worked with him before on some Super Nintendo titles. And he eventually just came up with this idea of killing things in a toy store. We were deliberately actually trying to market towards Apple, so we were thinking, okay, if it's going to be violent, it's got to be non-violent, and it's got to have the kind of appeal that people on the Mac expect. It can't be completely blood and guts because the Mac audience is a little bit different than that. So he just pretty much within 10 minutes came up with this idea, and we immediately came up with a name for it. I think about a week later, we called it Mighty Mike. And one thing led to another. He ended up quitting, or not quitting, he actually quit his job. He had another job, didn't have time to work on the project. So his only credit at this point is in the game under original concept, I think, but he didn't do any of the art for it. Found two other artists who were interested, and next thing you know, game's done. Yeah, when we were first coming up with the game, we were actually prototyping it after a game called Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and there was another game called Soldiers of Fortune, which were both on Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Both of those games were very similar. They were three-quarter overview games. You went around, you picked up power-ups, and you shot things. Zombies Ate My Neighbors was kind of a horror sci-fi kind of thing, and Soldiers of Fortune was kind of a, well, it's what it is. You're a soldier and you go and you buy weapons and you blow things up. So we thought, okay, well, let's take that. Those were both pretty good games, especially Zombies. Zombies got great reviews. It did quite well. Everybody liked it. So we took that as our prototype and we said, let's work around that and pretty much use that as the template. And we said, well, let's see. At first we said, let's see if we can get Nintendo quality animation and scrolling on a Mac. And at the time we weren't even concerned about getting it published. We knew that it would not run well on anything but an 040 or better. But we decided to go ahead with it anyway. We weren't too concerned about money. We figured let's just try to make it as good as we can. And luckily, in the amount of time it took us to do the game, the Mac market evolved to the point where people expect 040s anyway. 030s just, they know they can't do games on 040s, so our market kind of evolved with us. Yeah, we were pretty concerned about the game looking a little too kid-like, and unfortunately it really does when you first look at it. When you play it for 2 minutes, you realize, oh, it's not. You got flamethrowers, machine guns, and grenades and nukes, and it's kind of an adult theme in a children's-like environment, so it's kind of a mesh. Originally with the title, our old title, Mighty Mike with Automatic Recoil, the full title, we were trying to find a title that kind of emphasized a little more of the adult end, and of course Interplay kind of renamed it PowerPete, which we weren't real thrilled about, but we're not sure what that's going to do to our market. It may cause problems. People may go, oh, it sounds like a children's game, but we're hoping it won't. We're hoping that because it's CD-ROM, people will at least look at it, and we're also hoping that it'll be demoed in stores and people will just be able to see it in action and go, oh, okay, cool, things get killed. And hopefully that'll save it. But at first glance, it does look kind of like a kid's game, but it's not. Well, the guy yesterday asked that. Well, the Power Mac, pretty good machine. I hope everybody in the world buys one because you really can only do good games on a Power Mac. The 040 is good up to a point. You still have to run pretty much everything in small windows on an 040 to make them really go the way you want. But the Power Mac is, even a cheap Power Mac, even a 6160 just cranks. You can do just incredibly fast, incredibly good games on that machine, and beats the Pentium, especially if you're doing 3D stuff. The Pentium just cannot come close to the floating point math performance of PowerPC. So I think you're going to see a lot of 3D games that'll just kick the Pentium's butt, be much better graphics, better audio, and run faster overall. And it's definitely a good move by Apple because they couldn't have continued the way they were going with the 68,000 line. Well, let's see. Actually, well, the main reason I'm doing the stuff on the Mac is a much easier platform to develop than Windows or DOS. It's also got less competition, and it's also got better opportunities for having big hits. The DOS Windows market is just so flooded right now that even the big guys are having a hard time selling certain games. They can have the games on the DOS and Windows are overall much better than the Mac, but they are having a hard time selling what would be a just massive hit on a Mac. It could be just a mediocre success on Windows because of the competition. So the Mac is kind of nice in that you don't really have to work as hard to get as big a hit. You can crank the games out faster. You don't have to spend as much time with them. That's changing, so the quality will be going up with everybody's games. But it's a really easy platform to develop for. The tools are great. There's no incompatibility problems, what kind of sound card they have, what kind of video card they have. It's just, it either works or it doesn't. And it makes just, everything is just so much easier. It's a good machine to just play with. Well, we had two guys working on the project for art. Dave Triplett, who was the first artist. I'd worked with him on pretty much everything going back to my Apple II GS days through Firefall, Bloodsuckers, everything I've done on the Mac. He then found a guy named Scott Harper. Scott Harper ended up doing quite a bit of work, probably over half of it in the game it ended up. And he just picked up the stuff immediately. And what we ended up doing was just basically taking a modified System Pal. The System Pal on the Mac has no browns, so we took away some of the blues, added some browns, put it into Debabilizer, the best graphics tool ever made, and they drew everything in true color, knocked it all down in debab, and everything came out looking real good. And so all the original art is, I think most of it is actually 24-bit, so we're hoping someday we could port this thing over to other platforms and make it look even better, because the art is in as good a form as it should ever be.